90% of your emotional problems stem from your childhood. It's like having a mental virus in your system. You won't perform at your highest level. We all have people in our vicinity who always tell us that we should be aware of the consequences, and if this goes wrong, what happens then? If that fails, that one doesn't bring any results, do you have a plan B? And this video is slightly addressed to those kind of people, and also you who always worries about the future.
One common kind of mental illness, which doesn't present itself as an illness to us of course, it's far too clever for that, leads us to worry incessantly about the future, to worry about bankruptcy, disgrace, physical collapse, abandonment. What is pernicious about this kind of worrying is that it picks up on genuine features of the here and now. It presents itself as reasonable, but on closer examination, it clearly isn't. There are always a few alarming things going on. There is some turbulence in the economy. There can be things that go wrong with bodies. Reputations do rise and fall.
It always fascinates how people try to control things that has nothing to do with them. And that begs a question, why should you worry about something that you don't hold any power of? That should make life easier. It comes from a place not being able to accept what is, and feeling kinda in a vacuum when you cannot connect with your own living situation and refuse to accept the ways things progress. You are disconnected from your own life. You lose all control and you fall down into this spiral of self-sabotaging activity. Whether it's sitting on your ass and doing nothing because you feel apathetic, or running away from the commitments and activities that you promise yourself to follow up until the end. This is the antithesis of confidence. You are going backwards because confidence is something that is built upon your previous achievements, accomplishments. And as you fail again and again, you start to distrust yourself, you lose ability to feel confident, and you put yourself into this box of being a loser and accept that as your reality, which is counterproductive. Hey, it's easier to do nothing than to do something. But the tricky thing is, you will be paying the price 1,000 times over.
But what should eventually alert us to the peculiarity of our position is the duration, scale, and repetitiveness of our worries. We should learn to see that we are essentially worried all the time about something. The target may shift, but what is constant is our insecurity about existence. It is in such situations that a therapist may make a hugely useful intervention. They may point out that the way we worry about the future is in fact telling us a huge amount about our past.
You're so obsessed with controlling your living situation that you lose all control of the smallest things. You get the paralysis of analysis. You think you have this grandiose vision about how your life should be, but you miss out on the smallest parts of everyday living, like meal prepping, going to the gym, taking one step towards your goals, by at least accomplishing something. And this of course comes from the past, where you obviously lacked love from your guardians, from your parents, or other people surrounding you. You felt worthless. And this is exactly why you are trying to hold control over every single detail in your life. Of course, with no results. Most of the insecurities and troubles and problems that we experience in adult life comes from childhood that we in some way or another have suppressed. Funny enough, there are a lot of people with traumatic experiences who may appear as very confident and secure in themselves. It's because they have told themselves a narrative, a story that they start to believe so strongly that it doesn't even occur to them that there's something wrong with them. In most of those situations, their insecurities or their issues, traumas, may manifest outwardly on a superficial level, like having modifications to their bodies, whether it's a lot of tattoos, piercings, or gaining a lot of weight. When you're not satisfied with your own body that you have been given, you try to make everything to disconfigure and manipulate its appearance. This is a subconscious way of you trying to alter something that isn't possible.
More specifically, we are worried right now in a way that mirrors the panic we once felt as children. We are greeting the challenges of the adult world with the defenseless panic of the child we once were. What we are doing in the process is exchanging the pain of remembering the difficult past for a sense of foreboding around the future. The catastrophe we fear is going to happen has already happened. So sealed off are our memories. We project them forward, where they greet us as apprehensions of what is to come, rather than identifying themselves as legacies of the unmasterable past anxiety.
90% of your emotional problems stem from your childhood. And you being very young, not having a fully formed mind, it's not your fault not understanding why these problems arise. Beating yourself up for the past is even more negative and unhealthy attitude. You as a child didn't have any choice, but you as an adult have a responsibility to take care of your own shit and be an upstanding citizen by leading with an example and communicating to the world that you have prevailed. This is what we call survival of the fittest. If before it was a physical survival, today it's a mental one. And for you to complain about the injustices of the world, not having the right background, getting the short end of the stick won't solve anything. It's time for you to open that door to Narnia, to your past, to the places where you felt less needed, where you lacked love. Process them and leave them behind. You have to feel your emotions before they will disappear. And as long as they're in your subconsciousness, you won't be able to live life to the fullest. It's like having a mental virus in your system. You won't perform at your highest level.
The good therapist becomes aware of the correct source of the anxiety and doesn't let go of their insight. They will listen politely and generously to our description of our current panic. What will happen in our job? Have we studied enough? What if our enemies gang up on us? But then they will gently try to shift the conversation to the past, to show us that the future looks so fearful because we are being counterproductively loyal to the terrors of an earlier age, which we now need to remember, to feel sad about, and then eventually to mourn and move on from.
Funny, I have started watching The Sopranos, the show where the main character, the mobster, the boss, starts to go to the therapist because he feels that there's something wrong with him. He occasionally gets panic attacks and anxiety because he feels that he loses his family and he has a lot of shit to take care of. Interesting enough, the therapist digs deep into his childhood and a lot of his problems stem from there. Even if your parents were assholes towards you, you cannot blame them because they didn't know any better. Forgiveness is your first step. From there on, you have to take responsibility over your own mental health.
We should be disloyal to those who brought us up in an atmosphere of fear in order to save what remains of life from always appearing doom-laden. We may be trying to stay close to them by continuing to panic alongside them, but we owe it to ourselves to break the cycle of worry and to make our future different from the past by remembering, localizing, and mourning what belonged to yesterday, even as it pretends to be about tomorrow.
The only way to let it go is to feel it. And you are the average of those people who surround you. If your parents or loved ones or other family members are still toxic and you feel that you are taking the next step in your personal development and want to heal yourself, become a better person, whereas they remain the way they were, then it's time for you to let them go. At least for the moment being, until you stand on your feet, stable and confident enough to block their negativity, at least for short periods of time, during Christmas or whatnot. Are you worried about your future? What do you do to tackle that? Tell me in the commentary section. But for now, Hossein, out.